So the agents are done. The merge conflicts are probably here. Or let's see. 4 features were developed in parallel yesterday, and 4 features were developed in parallel. That's what we did yesterday. So let's dig in here now and see what happened. So if you're new here, some quick context. I have a workflow with Claude Code where I'm able to run between 10 and 15 parallel agents reliably, mostly orchestrated through GitHub, but I'm also doing some in my terminals, of course. I'm orchestrating everything through a main terminal and having that do things in GitHub for me and so on. And here in this series, we are really trying to see what Kiro is capable of and seeing if we can take Kiro to that same level. So if you want to follow along here, me learning Kiro and checking if it can match Claude Code, please like, subscribe so that you don't miss any of the following episodes. And we're doing this for the Kiro hackathon that is running currently until the 20-something January. I'll put the date here. And I am not affiliated with Kiro. I'm not sponsored by Kiro. So I am being totally honest with my reviews here and what I have to say about Kiro, what is good, what is bad. And through this, I'll take you through my thinking process, everything related to how I do things, how I build stuff, how I think about commands, how I think about planning as we're building this application. So it doesn't really matter which tool we're using. The principle stays the same, the thinking stays the same. Something that I also want to show here is a lot of people actually have been asking me how my daily workflow works. I also post about this hackathon series here in the hackathon channel and also in the Dynamis community. And I have a lot of people reach out to me there, not necessarily asking about my Kiro workflow, but more so asking about my Claude Code and my daily dev workflow, because that's where I really use all of these kind of learnings and techniques that I'm trying to get Kiro to work with at scale. And just to give you a little bit of a taste here of what I'm actually doing on a day-to-day, you can see that I have in this repo, currently it's private, but this is going to become public very soon. I have something like 36 issues, 30 PRs, and all of these are actually isolated Claude Code instances running in worktrees, all orchestrated in GitHub. I actually orchestrate this from like a main terminal that I have running Claude Code. Claude Code can just invoke agents by just saying something like this: at rcom, please investigate and fix this issue. That will trigger a workflow. I'm going to show this more in depth, and if you're interested into seeing more details about how I actually run between 5 and 20 agents at any given time at scale, accurately doing small targeted fixes, bugs, features, and managing that on a day-to-day, please comment and subscribe to this and comment down below if you want to see that. I can make like a detailed in-depth video of how I do all of this, how it's all managed, how it all runs in GitHub, and so on. But yeah, you can see here basically a lot of comments here. I haven't written a single comment here. This is all done automatically by Claude Code. These are code reviews, fixes. Things are happening here all the time inside of this repo. So yeah, yesterday we had 4 agents building simultaneously. We were building a GUI in a Ralph loop. We were building port allocation, PID tracking, and include patterns, all inside of separate implementation terminals and worktrees. One of them has failed. We will dig into that as well. But yeah, just to recap a little bit about what we are building as well. We are building shards. Shards is a CLI that spins up agents in different environments or different work trees at this point. So one command creates a branch inside of a work tree. It launches a terminal of our choice, and it launches an agent like a CLI of our choice. So with a simple command, we can just create a branch, create a work tree, launch the terminal for us, and start the agent inside of that terminal. So that really is what we're doing here so far. We are also planning to build out the GUI for it, where we can like manage and start terminals directly from the GUI and kind of track what's going on in all of our different terminals. So that's it. Let's dig into it and see what has happened here. So as you can see, I have 4 terminal windows open. These are all the implementations from yesterday. I just opened them again here. We have one failure actually. So the Ralph loop that we were running actually started to kind of spin out of control. So it, as you can see, if we scroll up here, it implemented the same thing over and over and over again. I do not know what happened and why that happened, but it seemed to have some issues understanding that it was inside of a work tree. So it seems a little bit like a Kiro failure here, actually Kiro not understanding that it was inside of the work tree. So we're gonna do some debugging here and try to understand what was going on in that and maybe try to improve our Ralph loop. I did confirm that the Ralph loop was working on some other features a couple of days ago. So if you go back and watch that, you can see that we actually had the Ralph loop working then. But yeah, I'm just going to take it here into our Kiro orchestrator. So we used this kind of orchestrator to create our work trees and launch our work trees yesterday. So I'm just going to say one of our work trees where we were running the Ralph loop to implement the GUI had some issues. Without making any changes, can you please help me analyze what was going on? What was the agent struggling in so that we can understand potentially how we can address it in our system level, like in our prompts or in our loop level. So I'm going to take that. I'm just going to paste in all of the context from that run. And let's see. We will have that run here a little bit in the background. I'll pull that out of the way for now. And I'm going to exit out of this. Yeah, so that quits the terminal. But now we have 3 separate ones here that are all done. So we can go into our browser here. We can see that we have 3 new PRs created. So all of those terminals created PR each. And we can also see in our Kiro, I have a lot of things open here, but in Kiro, we also have this, let's see where it is. It should be agent swarm. So we have an agent swarm here that we will use to now analyze, or we have this agent swarm here as well that we will now use to do code reviews on all of our solutions. So I've already done some small testing, like the agents did self-testing inside of their runs yesterday. So I kind of saw it, it opened up terminals, it started tracking. So I know a lot of things are actually working quite well, but I have no idea what the code looks like. I haven't looked at the code at all. So what I'm going to do here is I see that we have not committed the devlog from yesterday. So I'm also going to do that. Let's just do that in, yeah, why not use Kiro for that? So I'm just going to say, can you please commit and push the changes we have to our devlog? Please do it directly to main. So since it's only a markdown file, we are pushing it directly to main. We also have the analysis done here on the Ralph loop. We're going to look into that later. I'm going to pull it to the side for now. Let's start by starting our review flows. So how we do that, I'm going to go up to the top here. We know that this one is the PID tracking. So I'm just going to look at whichever PR that is. So that should be PR number 8. So that should be this one. I'm going to do /clear. Now we want to start the review flow. It should be the @code review. I'm just going to confirm that. Yeah. So one thing that I keep saying again and again that I don't really like about Kiro here is that we need to remember our command names to invoke the correct command. There is no autocomplete inside of the CLI. So this can be quite annoying, especially when you see here I have several code review commands. I need to remember which one is the one that I want to use. I'm just going to find the right terminal. Here is where we cleared. Are you sure you want to clear? Yes. Do I have to do that? I have probably run clear in previous episodes where I actually have not cleared because I didn't know that I had to confirm. I haven't, this is very hard to see. It's very gray and I barely can see it. Okay, anyways, let's do @code -review, and that should invoke the / command, and it should then be PR number 8. So we should just say PR number 8. And that should invoke our code review on PR number 8. It's inside of the work tree already. So that's perfect. It should be able to check everything in there. Okay, now let's start the next one. We see that this one is the port allocation one. We're gonna clear here as well. Let's do @code review to start our workflow. So what the workflow really does is that it launches the code review agent. So we are running 4 parallel tracks of reviewing on this PR, and then the results are going to be posted directly to GitHub. So let's check port allocation, and that's PR number 9. So I'm just going to say PR number 9 to that guy. For those of you who haven't followed along, in order to work around not being able to write arguments directly into Kiro commands. We had to rewrite the prompts. So instead of using the argument syntax that we have in Claude Code, we instead have the agent ask what the argument should be. So it's a quite simple workaround, but it seems to work quite good. And yeah, continue to use that for now. I did see somewhere, or someone told me that I should be able to use Kiro hooks for that so that I can hook back for the arguments. But we will try that potentially in the future episode when our system starts to evolve a little bit. We have one more PR to run on. That should be this terminal here then. So let's do clear, and we do @code review. In Claude Code, it would be /code review, but Kiro has the syntax instead to invoke commands. It loads. That should be then PR number 10. So PR number 10. So I'm just going to let this run here. In the meanwhile, I'm going to read a little bit about what Kiro thought about Ralph loop failure. So a few of the issues here. So it spent basically the entire time just looking for the root of where it was. It couldn't locate the cargo file. So the issue here is really that we were running in a worktree. So I think it had trouble understanding where it was. But yeah, we're just going to tell Kiro here to try to address these issues. I'm not sure if we want to set the initial working directory by default, because we are most often we will kick Kiro or kick Ralph off inside of a work tree. So it needs to be relative to the work tree that is in. And we don't want to pre-approve tools at this point. We just want to launch it instead with the trust all flag. And we definitely want to have that context combined. So the Ralph loop should give context around everything that is meta related. So like the PRD itself, it should give that as context. But then the task, like the prd.json tasks, is what should be appended to each iteration. So every iteration should get all of that meta context, but it should get the context of what the previous agent did and what the agent now should do. And it should get that through the progress file as well. So please try to address all of these issues in a Ralph system. Please make sure that you create a branch when you work on this. So create a branch now and work on these Ralph loop fixes. So we're just going to try to have fix itself here, fix its own Ralph loop. If it doesn't succeed at that, it's fine. We're going to then just use Claude Code to help it out. We're going to let that run. I don't know if we have time to test another Ralph loop today, but yeah, we're going to continue here to see if our code reviews are being done. Okay, so I opened up the PID tracking one here. We have a good summary of what was done, the PR. We can also, of course, improve the PR template here to get some better information here, but we don't really need to right now. But yeah, let's look at the code review report. So this one has some good meta context here and lists our issues. It also adds some recommendation of what we should do. But yeah, we have some critical issues that must be fixed. So that's one race condition that we should fix. It also adds recommended fixes here. So this might be a little bit too verbose for my taste here, but it's okay. We have a second issue, silent error. We don't want that. Issue 3, platform unsafe PID. I'm going to read this through. So it's always good to read through these code reviews, of course, so that you understand the fix that it intends to implement. Because if you don't understand the fix, it might make the wrong assumption and actually implement something that you do not want implemented. So what you can see here as well, what is good about this is that it gives me options so that I can basically pick from these options. Okay, so I have scanned through all of our PRs. They look solid. The review reports look solid. I'm just going to have Kiro run with it here. So I'm just going to do the same prompt on all of them. Please address all the issues mentioned by the code review and push your fixes to the PR once you're done. And I'm actually going to just copy that. And now that is running on all of them. While that is running, let's take a look at what our Ralph fix have done here. Okay, so it has done some changes here to our Ralph loop. It seems like all good changes. I'm going to say, please create a PR. So from this point forward, we're going to make most of our changes into PRs. If we are working on markdown files or let's say context files, we probably will be pushing directly to main. But for the most part, we will try to use PRs. But yeah, we are going to take a look at that. Please merge this PR directly to main. So we're going to merge that directly to main here. We only had 2 files changed, so it's fine. We only edited the Ralph script and the Ralph loop.md. So definitely no breaking changes in our project here. And yeah, okay, awesome. So what we want to do now, I want you to use the .claude/skills worktree manager skill/skill.md file. Read that and understand the skill, how to use it. And I want you to clean up the old Ralph worktree that we had for implementing the GUI. Oh, we had a very unfortunate compact here. In my point of view, compaction is the devil. We never want to compact, literally. The only times I think compact is viable is if you work on some kind of long content thing where you can easily kind of reprime what you're doing. So I have done it sometimes when I work on improving my content management system or something like that, my brand manual, things that takes a lot of context sometimes. Then I use compact, but I never use compact for coding, like literally never. Clearing context, I use all the time, never compact. Okay, so it has successfully cleaned up our GUI worktree. Now please create a new worktree. We are going to run the Ralph loop inside of that worktree with this plan. So we can see here also using my Claude Code skill for managing worktrees. That's great. I need to launch the Kiro CLI with the trust all flag inside of that worktree as well. There should be a script for it in the skill. Here we go. So now we are in the worktree. And since I don't remember, please tell me how I should invoke the Ralph loop inside of the worktree or inside of the other context window. Since I work all day on my Claude Code system and I have different allocation patterns there, it's hard for me to remember what I name things here. Okay, we shouldn't have to do that. We should just be able to use the Ralph prompt, right? So if we invoke the .kiro/prompt, and there should be a Ralph prompt in there that should do all of this for us. Please confirm that. So we have here our prd Ralph. We don't want that, we want this one. So this one should start the Ralph loop for us. Yeah, exactly. So one thing that is worth mentioning here with Kiro is that Kiro doesn't seem really to understand how its inner workings work. So this obviously will not work. We need to do at Ralph-loop to invoke it. So this is something that the Kiro team really needs to take a look at. Like, it's quite annoying to work with Kiro to invoke things in Kiro or to improve prompts and ask it how to do things in Kiro, because it doesn't know. I need to first overfeed documentation from Kiro for it to understand how to work with itself, which is something that Claude Code does really well out of the box. So actually one reason why we might not be able to do this properly is because the plan file is actually not a Ralph PRD, it's PRP. So that might be the issue, but I'm just going to give it to it anyways here. We're going to run. Great. So it understood that it should use the PRP plan file to create a PRD. The most important things to get started first is the basic GUI window and the app structure. We want a list of active sessions and some type of dashboard with data of what's going on. The PTY terminal integration we can potentially leave until last here. Okay, great. We're doing all of this in the worktree, so that's great. So at least we're getting the PRD created in the worktree, so we don't need to copy it over. So that's perfect. I'm just gonna let this run here until it's done. In the meanwhile, we should be pretty much ready here with our other terminals. So it's now ready for merge, but I'm gonna still anyways just run, just gonna check. So what we probably should do is we should run another lap of code reviews here. But since we are only doing this for 1 hour per day and already kind of running out of time here, I am going to just merge these in. But I'm not going to just merge it blindly. I'm going to do this here. So we're going to use this guy again. We actually have this other context window. We have 2 more here actually. Okay. Guess we can't close these splits. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to do /clear. Yes. And in here, I'm going to say, please use the GitHub CLI to check this project. We have currently 3 PRs that are ready to merge. And we want to analyze what is the optimal merge order for these. There are probably going to be some conflicts. So look into the potential conflicts we may have there, and let's decide on the best merge order, and then also create a plan for how to resolve conflicts as they arise. So that's really it. I'm not going to dig too much into each conflict. I know that there's going to be some small conflicts here, but probably nothing major. So what we probably also want to do is, since we are probably going to have other merge conflicts and stuff in the future, there are two things that we're going to want to create. We're going to want to create a triage flow that will triage our GitHub issues, because we're going to start creating a lot of GitHub issues here as we start running into bugs and stuff, because we will run into a lot of bugs, a lot of things that are not yet implemented and so on. We will run all of that through GitHub so we can orchestrate it all. And we want to be able to just run a command in Kiro to triage those for us, to kind of make an order for in the order we should implement them, and so on. So we can have Kiro help us decide of how to implement stuff, or at least in which order to do stuff. Then we also want to have this kind of merge conflict resolver that is not necessarily integrated with the triaging, but is also related to the triaging, but this will run on PRs that are open to find the best merge order, decide on which side wins when there is a merge conflict. And maybe if we need to do a full rewrite of something, if something is too complicated to resolve, then we maybe rather do a full rewrite. And since we are doing this with agents, it's very cost efficient for us to just rewrite something if we're not happy with it. Okay, here we can also see that our Ralph PRD is done, and we are just going to do, can you please confirm me that we are already inside of the correct work tree? We shouldn't have to cd into that directory, do we? Would you recommend me to run it directly through the shell command, or shouldn't I use the .kiro/prompt Ralph loop prompt? Yeah, exactly. We want the Ralph loop executor prompt. Yeah, so I'm just going to do add Ralph loop. Okay, here we go. We are off. Ralph loop activated. Yeah, let's see if this now succeeds. It should now be running. Let's see, it at least starts their loop. So we can see it's already started a new instance with the first task. I'm going to let that run. We're probably not going to be able to look at that until tomorrow. It will take quite a while, I'm sure, to have that finish. And here we have now a merge order, 10 first, most isolated. Okay. Yes, please go ahead and start with merging number 10. Once that's merged to main, I also want you to run tests. You can test the CLI directly before you move on with the next branch. So please run some validation and regression in between each merge. So yeah, this is a simple version of what our merge conflict script is going to look like later. We're going to, of course, build that out. We're going to template out exactly the actions that we will want the agent to do. Right now, I'm just running like a kind of proof of concept here in Kiro to make sure that Kiro is capable of doing that with a simple instruction. And then we can actually start templating in actual regression tests that we wanted to run. For example, yesterday we created this regression testing script here, regression test script. So with that, we will be able to just improve this and run this in between merges to make sure that we don't break anything old and so on. Since we're building a CLI, it's going to be pretty simple to do this. Once we start building the UI now, I'm also going to look for some ways that we potentially can have a feedback loop brought back into the Kiro CLI, maybe through some MCP server or some way of giving it a visual of the application. Maybe we can just do something with screenshots as well. I'm not sure. Oh, it looks like it's froze. Did it freeze? Please continue. So the Kiro CLI keeps freezing on me. Like it happens again and again. It just kind of like stops and I don't know what's happening. It just literally stopped. Yeah, so it tells me that it's going to run something, tell me it's using the tool, and then just nothing happens. Are you running? Yeah, so something's happened. It seems like that shell script that you're trying to run, or that command that you're trying to run, is not really working, at least, or it's hanging or something. So it seems to hang on shell scripts. Okay, now we go. Okay, that actually worked. I canceled too quickly. Please continue. So maybe the clip actually does work. It just takes a long time. It seems weird that it would take so long time. So now we can see the shard CLI is doing some work. We see here that the Kiro terminal is open for us. So PR number 10 is merged and validated. We ran regression. Everything seemed to work and nothing seemed to have broken. So that's great. Next one should be the port allocation stuff. Slightly more complicated, but still a pretty simple feature. What I'm also going to do now, so now when I'm done with these three, I'm just going to quit out of them, and that should close them out. So now we have those three work trees closed. We're going to tell this guy here, once everything is merged, to close those work trees as well. So we do a cleanup, and we can see here that the CLI is working. It's launching Kiro terminal. It's launching a Claude Code terminal, and it's launching another Kiro terminal. So it's testing itself here quite well. Things are working. Okay, awesome. And now it's resolving the last. So I see here our Ralph loop is actually running into an issue here. I need xcode installed on my machine. So I'm going to get that installed for tomorrow. I never used that before. So I'm going to install that and get this working for tomorrow. So it seems like we cannot run the Ralph loop. We should at least break out of that here and exit it, because we are not going to get past that. So that's fine. At least the Ralph loop is working now. So we're going to test that out again tomorrow. I'm going to install xcode. I'm going to get that running. We don't have time to do all of that right now. Okay, so this is finishing up. We're going to exit out of all of this here soon as well. So as you can see here as well, like my system is not very advanced at this point, but I can still get quite a lot of things done by just having a way to isolate my environments so that I can do things in parallel. By having a very reliable planning flow, like I have a few different planning commands here. Like you will see if you go through the prompts here, I use mainly the create plan. This is my main planning workflow. I also have prp-prd. That is a more interactive way, which will ask you questions. With the create plan, it kind of assumes that you will give a lot of the information up front. So I basically brain dump into this, and it helps me create a structured plan that I can go in and edit a little bit after if I want to. The create PRD is more interactive. It will ask you questions, and especially the Ralph PRD here will ask you a bunch of questions to make sure that it gets everything correctly. What is your main goal, specific requirement and constraints, so on and so on. If you also want a more in-depth view of my planning workflows, you can go and check out my PRPs directory. I have this PRP directory. In here, there are a lot of commands that I use quite day to day. And here you have prp-prd, which is a very thorough planning command that is very interactive. It's extremely thorough in asking you questions. And I think that this beats any kind of built-in plan command of any of the big tools, plan mode in Cursor, in Kiro, in Claude Code. This one has beaten all of them, for me at least so far. So take a look at that if you want to use that. I highly recommend it. And yeah, one more thing that I kind of want to show here. Let's skip that. So here we can see it's running final validation after the last merge conflicts have been resolved. Okay, it's done. Everything is merged in. It's now testing the last things here. We can see the terminals are working, startups are working, tracking seems to be working too. Port allocation and deallocation is working, cleanup is working. I'm going to run all of the CLI commands manually as well, of course, to verify, but it's a very good way when you're building something like this. Give your agent a way to self-check, to self-validate, to run those CLI commands, to go check your UI, to basically get feedback into itself so that it will continue until it knows everything's working. That's really the key to unlocking trust for your AI agents. Okay, here we're done. All tests passing, background compatibility with existing sessions, and ready for use. Perfect. So I'm going to close that out. So tomorrow we are very likely going to write a new Claude skill that now uses shards rather than using all the shell scripts in our current skills. If you've seen this skill, we have a worktree manager skill for Claude that now has a skill.md and a bunch of scripts to do all of these things. But now we basically have all of this already built into shards. The only thing we don't have really is like these syncing patterns and include patterns if you want to include other work trees in our system and so on. So I'm going to build that in, of course, as well, but we'll do that down the line. Okay, This seems to be pretty good. We don't need that file. I'm just going to tell this guy. Okay, all of our work trees are now done. You can clean up all of our work trees, including the Ralph loop work tree, because we had failures in there again that we will address tomorrow. So now it's just going to clean up the work trees. Yeah, checking the registry. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do here as well is I'm just going to run an add to devlog, and then we're basically done for the day. The add to devlog command, of course, is for the hackathon, but it's pretty good to use this kind of practice. It will help you document what you did in this session and help you with context for upcoming sessions if you want to. But yeah, I'm just going to answer these questions here. So what we did today is that we merged all of the PRs that we had open. We had 3 PRs open, one PID tracking, one port allocation work PR, and one include patterns. So those are the 3 PRs that we merged in. We ran regression testing. We ran a regression test script. It all passed. We ran some manual testing where we actually had the Kiro CLI run all the tests for us, making sure that our CLI works as expected, tracking works, all of the new features work. We had a few challenges, mainly with the Kiro CLI kind of hanging, or it's hard to understand sometimes what is going on. Otherwise, nothing major. We had some failures in our Ralph loop that we addressed. So now we have the Ralph loop working, but we ran into another failure in our Ralph loop where actually the feature that we were building required me to have xcode installed. I don't have that installed, so I'm going to install it and we're going to rerun the Ralph loop tomorrow for the GUI. And one thing that we're also going to do tomorrow is that we're going to continue planning new features. So I want to have the GUI built, and then we're going to start building features from there. I want to be able to teleport sessions, maybe even teleport sessions between Claude and Codex, stuff like that. I have some big ideas I kind of want to do there. And yeah, no major new learnings or insights and no major CLI highlights. We're going to look into some more advanced features as well in coming days. So I'm just going to let this run. I'm going to post this, of course, to the GitHub, to the shards directory. You can look at that in the description. All of my commands, all of my swarms, all of my agents, everything is in there. Take a look at that. If you want to use that, feel free. If you want to use my commands for your hackathon project, please do. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you tomorrow again.